Dev stream, eh? Of course, it's a rework of Exalted and Pseudo Exalted as I go to release an Excalibur video, finally. So pro tip, put melee influence on the Exalted and the slash dash. I'd really have to see what the hell they're doing with that, because they can't just give him a second Exalted sword, so I assume it's going to use the same Exalted sword, which won't work with the way the ability currently works. Like, something's going to have to completely change there for that to make any sense. Anyways, we'll move on into our regularly scheduled video now. Enjoy. Remember to drop a like and subscribe and all that sort of fun stuff. Leave a comment if you have any questions, and we'll see you in the video. Alright, so as usual, I'll put a time up here you can skip to if you just want to get to the build and skip the explanation of Excalibur for the new players, but start off, his passive, he's slightly better while using swords. Generally speaking, this includes one-handed swords, two-handed swords, heavy blades, and I believe that's it. I want to say it might include daggers, but I'm not sure. It's almost an unnoticeable benefit anyways, so don't agonize over yourself. Then, of course, we got Slash Dash. So, Excalibur dashes at guys. He will also just dash if you don't have a target. And ignore the rest of this description because it's kind of a lie. So yeah, slash dash, you aim at an enemy, you will just kind of warp through the enemies like this. You can melee at any time if you want to cancel this. Just do a regular melee. And you'll go through and make them all bleed, and hopefully they will die. That's slash dash. Radial Howl. If you see something called Radial Blind, don't worry, they're effectively the same unless you're fighting Sentience. It just means you have Excalibur and not Excalibur Umbra. You'll get Excalibur Umbra for free, and he's generally speaking the better version. Basically, whatever you scream or yell or hold up your sword and blind everyone, you can do finishers on them. That's probably the biggest benefit of this, I would say, all told. So there's not too much to this. You're around enemies, you'll do your blindy thing, they will be stunned, you can walk up to them and push a finisher. That will build up melee, crescendo, and other arcanes. We have processing finishers, but it's a pretty basic ability all told. For completion's sake, this is Radial Javelin. I don't actually remember. It might be called the same thing on regular Excalibur. You smack the ground or you shoot stuff out that impales people. It's not too bad against really weak enemies, but it really falls off later on. You might notice he's inflicting a lot of slash status too. I'll explain later why that's not particularly great. This is the one I helmet off, but if you do have this thing, you can use it for a melee buff. Again, though, that's base damage. It's not the greatest in the world, though you can make it fairly high, but then you need a grouping power, and it's all kinds of silly stuff. So yeah, you'll see I'm surrounded, and I do this little slashy move. It doesn't do a whole lot of anything even against these relatively weak enemies. Definitely not my favorite, and why I helmeted it off. It was a big meta nuke years ago, but they nerfed the crap out of it, essentially. Alright, and the thing you probably everyone knows Excalibur for, even though it's funnily enough not part of his original kit, is Exalted Blade. Yeah, whip out your laser or lightning sword as you have, swing it around. It shoots off waves, things like that. This is probably the meat and potatoes of our build here today. So yeah, you cast Exalted Blade, you pull out the sword, and you start swinging. My companion kills those two. Try and hit enemies with the sword, because the sword and the waves basically will not quite double the damage if you hit them with both. Whereas if you just hit them with the waves, they actually don't count a lot of mods. You'll notice when you slide, you get a little mini radial blind. But yeah, this is the hold melee to win button. You did not pick Excalibur as your starting Warframe, no worries. You can get him by farming the boss fight here on Mars. The trick to killing Lieutenant Krill is to try and shoot the hoses or cut the hoses on his back until he starts burning. I'm not very good at it, so I'm not going to try and make a guide for you. I know basically what you're supposed to do, but I've never managed to do it consistently. Depending on what week it is, and if you have this stuff unlocked, you may also have the option to get him in the circuit. Right now, he is not. It is these people. So yes, my slightly clickbaity video title and possibly thumbnail aside, Excalibur's not the worst. Komai is 100% the worst at this point, by a significant margin. That said, the worst Warframe in Warframe is still absolutely and totally viable, arguably even overpowered. Except for Komai. Even then, she can eventually get there sometimes, maybe eventually. This isn't the Komai video, though. So yeah, people like to throw around viable or unviable. Those terms mean nothing until you're up over a level 1000, something most people are never going to see in Warframe, so forget about it. Needing a rework or being outdated is a whole nother story, of course, and Excalibur's definitely in that camp, but until then, he's getting sort of one soon. Until then, here's the build. Alright, so here we have Excalibur Umbra. Again, if you're a new player, just keep playing the quests. You'll get Excalibur Umbra for free with a free slot. If you want to get Excalibur earlier, just farm the boss on bars or look for him in the circuit if you did not start with him. That said, if you have base Excalibur, well, you'll get Umbra before you get Archon shards or anything too terribly valuable anyways. So, departing from the new players for a second, just because it's already on the screen. You can see I've got both ability damage and melee critical damage purple shards in here. And this one is just some casting speed, which has to do with her helmets more than anything. Basically, this gives just kind of this is kind of like the roar bonus at a much lower level to anything that's procced by electricity, which you'll shortly see is going to be everything. This does give you critical damage, but the Exalted Blade does not have the best critical stats, so it didn't go all in on that. Also, these ones do affect the status damage from the Exalted Blade, so you'll see that in a second there. If that made no sense to you and you're a new player, don't worry. Alright, so we have an Excalibur Umbra. Again, do not panic if you're a new player, because we will explain some stuff here. So, worthy camaraderie. You're generally going to think Excalibur uses a sword. I should use Steel Charge for melee damage. That's fine, it's a very good early on choice, actually. Later on, you may also see a lot of people running Corrosive Projection. Again, perfectly fine. The aura is not the big point here, I'm just kind of covering some of your options. That one's also pretty easy to get. It will help you out against armored enemies. The thing is, it does nothing against infested, tech, rot, corpus, blah, blah, blah. One thing here to note is energy regen basically doesn't work on Excalibur if you're playing him like Excalibur, so don't fall into that trap necessarily. If you got a little bit into the Silver Grove quest, you've unlocked the ability where you might get brief respite, where your abilities will replenish your shield and, more importantly, reactivate your shield gate, which is a temporary period of invulnerability when your shield is knocked down to 0. That can be very good for your survival, depending what you're doing. We have another way to do that, so. And then there's also this one, Growing Power. Now, this is not generally viable for how I've got him set up. It sort of works with Slash Dash, but not much else. That said, if you are doing a little more standard helmet thing, I would say, like throwing Roar or something on there, you can very easily get a nice 25% power strength onto a Roar, Eclipse, or whatever the heck you're putting on there. Alright. For Excalibur, you can also use Archon Vitality if you want. It doesn't really fit in my build because I refuse to take the Emerald slots off, but it will give you an extra heat proc off the Exalted Blade hits if you are using a Heat Exalted Blade, which I'm also not using. Archon Stretch basically doesn't work because he can't regen energy while his Exalted Blade is on. These two will work, but again, you'd need Toxin or Cold Exalted Blade. That's not what I have, so they're not in there. That one particularly would be good for an anti-armor build or a one-stop shop build if you want to run a Toxic Blade that will also reduce armor. For this, I've given him Worthy Camaraderie. This is an aura you can get in 1999 all the way at the end of the story, so you're probably not going to get as a new player. You could ask in a clan or something, as it drops constantly. I probably wouldn't pay actual platinum for it. Squad receives 75% weak point critical chance. Now, the reason I picked this on is, this does work with melee weapons. Many people don't seem to realize this. And you can, over time, learn to aim your melee weapon if you use the same stance a lot. But even if you're not aiming, your melee weapon's reasonably likely to hit weak points to start with. If you've ever had a headshot for the Night Wave or whatever, you probably noticed you can get it just by wildly meleeing at things sometimes. So it will add a tiny little boost there. Cunning Drift comes from drift challenges. You will unlock them after the second dream quest. If not, you can just throw whatever in there. Mobilize, usually this is where mobility mods go, and going fast is not something you can entirely overlook here. Umbral Vitality, you get that when you get Umbra. If you don't have it, just run regular Vitality. Augur Secrets, now this is one that comes from the 4th bounty on the Plains of Eidolon that you can start in Cetus. It is kind of one we need because we do want our shields to be regenerated when we're spending energy on abilities. Notably, that does not count the channeling cost of the Exalted Blade on the initial cast cost. Just because that does give us a little bit of a quick shield gate if we need one, which again is a tiny period of invulnerability. Equilibrium, this is a very popular one. If you pick up orbs, they give you the opposite thing. Our companion makes most of the orbs. There is a helmet you can add to Excalibur called Lycast's Hunt by getting Varuna first. I actually don't have it because farming Varuna is a pain in my backside, and it's one of the like 4 I don't have. Prime Flow, pretty self-explanatory. If you don't have Prime Flow, get regular Flow. Prime Flow, I believe, comes from Barrow Katir every now and then. Same with Prime Continuity. Nothing fancy there. Precision Intensify. This comes from another very near the end of the story, Whispers in the Wall, technically. Because none of my other abilities really care for power, we're using this to get extra power on the Exalted Blade. If you don't have this and you've got Umbra, throw in Umbral Intensify. If you don't have Umbral Intensify yet, throw in regular Intensify. Simple, easy. Redirection. So Excalibur actually has more effective hit points in his shields than his health and armor. Fun factoid. Or it's pretty dang close, one of the two. I believe Excalibur has more in the shields, and Umbra actually bumped up the health a little bit to get the switch around on it. Redirection gives you more shields, which will give you a longer shield gate if they get knocked down. The other one, fast charge or whatever, can be used to recharge them faster. It really depends what you find more useful. I find this one more useful because this one I can just keep popping back up. And if there is a Warframe around me that's going to give me shields, like Hildren or Volts or whoever, Mag, then this is going to give me a lot of spare health to go with. Big one here, Chromatic Blade. This can be bought from rank 5 of Steel Meridian and one of the other ones. I believe Arbiters of Hexus, but don't quote me. This changes your Exalted Blade from being a physical weapon to being an elemental weapon, pure elements, based on its color, and it gives it super stash chance. Despite the fact that says stash chance is increased by 300%, that's actually modified by your power, so you can see we have 641% on ours. You can push that even higher. But yeah, that's a big part of it because that really cranks up the Exalted Blade's output significantly. We do multi-augmented. This will stack. This unlocks from Angels of the Zeraman quest after it. If you're a new player, you probably aren't getting into arcanes yet, but this just gives you extra power strength. Do remember, if you're using Exalted Blade, you have to put it away and pull it back out, like cast the ability to put it away. Don't just switch your weapons. And then recast the ability to pull it back out to get the higher strength version. Arcane Reaper. I really should max this out, but again, melee kill, it just gives you health regen and bonus armor. It's a basic survivability thing. You can do all sorts of stuff with this. Arcane Avenger was what I used to run back in the day. Honestly, these are kind of either or choices. Generally, I can get my shield back up, but this will give me just a tiny bit of healing if something got through it. Like Toxin procs. Not gonna get too much into my guns. This is a bolter. It's a hunter munitions build. There are thousands like it. This is the Incarnate settings on it. This one is a pretty basic, well, there's a ribbon in it, but it's a blast electric. Tenetetron, what do you want? Heat would probably be better, but I didn't have a heat one for whatever reason. Big thing here that I've got in here, again, you are not going to get this as a new player, but secondary fortifier. This is what you can just shoot something with overguard to basically destroy it immediately. Nothing too fancy there. These are Dextacras. Dextacras, you actually should be able to get them pretty soon in the anniversary event. They're dual swords. Notably, they're free. They come with a slot when you get them from that event. And they have this nice ribbon disposition, which has got to do with my ribbon here. Which is, this entire build might look kind of whack and weird to you. If you know anything about melee building, it's because it's a stat stick for slash dash. I don't really use slash dash with these even. I usually use it with the Exalted Blade and just live with the fact it's not optimal. But here's the slash dash build. It's probably going to change by around the end of February, so forget about it. I know. Nerapon keeps your combo counter up. Again, Zeneric doesn't work very good for Excalibur because Exalted Blade blocks energy regen. Here's the star of our show. Don't you love Exalted Warframes? They require talking forever. Don't mind that critical multiplier thing. I will explain that in a second, what's going on there. So yeah, Dreamer's Wrath. This is pretty much the default best Tennokai move. You can do this one if you want them to come up a little more often and be less likely to miss them. You could make a argument for this, but there's already a huge amount of status chance that we don't really need that going off as well. Now, there are different ways to make the Exalted Blade. I've chosen Blast and Electricity, which is kind of just a universal mega DPS, everything AoE sword. If you wanted to, you could do Corrosive and Heat as the super anti-armor if you're finding you have a lot of trouble with that. Again, you will change that by changing the color on Excalibur, right? Yeah, it says emissive color down here. Purple gives you electric. So if I change that to green, it's suddenly emissive, it's suddenly toxic, and my entire build will be broken. So we'll just go back around on that. It's kind of weird, it's not on the sword itself. So yeah, we've got some crit stats. Again, there's an argument to be made for swapping these out for other things, but the Umbral Polarity is already there, and I'm not going to remove Umbral Polarities. Or put in excessive, it would require even more forma to fit something in there without removing the Umbral Polarities. Whatever your main element is, if you want to add the secondary element, use the 2 gold mods that are relative to that. So if you wanted Blast Toxin, you'd keep these and just change the sword to green. If you want Corrosive, you're going to have to put an electric and a toxin here, and then you change the sword to orange or red, or the emissive to orange or red to get heat procs. That's your anti-armor. This is just some more raw damage on here, also to weight the blast a little higher. Again, if they add an arcane slot, melee influence is going to be the best, and you might actually want to turn up the electric weighting instead of the blast weighting. Organ Share is your critical damage. Again, remember we've got that weak point critical boost off our aura as well that does not show here, but it'll give us a little more critical chance. This just gives you attack speed. If you don't have Berserker Fury, just run regular Fury, or there's another one, Quickening is the other one, is an option. Galvanized Elementalist or Melee Elementalist, you are going to have a hard time getting if you are a new player. If you're a new player, you might just want to throw in Healing Return or Life Strike, which is down here somewhere. Healing Return heals you based on the statuses of the enemy you're hitting. Life Strike will give you heavy attacks heal you instead, essentially. You could also throw some other things in there, but we're not going to get too far into the weeds on that. Or if you wanted to just turn your electricity into another element, like corrosive. Moving over to Helios. Why Helios? No particular reason. I just felt like having Helios. Make sure this is on so Helios will shoot its glaives. This is the one that has it make orbs. This, I believe, comes from the Conservation Guy in Cetus. Companion melee attacks, which Helios' glaives count as, will strip 15% of armor and enemies recently damaged by abilities, which is going to be everything with our Exalted Blade. Spread the effect to enemies in a 9-meter radius. Just some extra shields. You don't really need detect vulnerability. I like having thematic stuff and having my Helios scan and weak point enemies. Regular animal instinct if you don't have this one. No brainer. Loot radar and enemy radar. Not as necessary as they used to be, but still nice. We're all addicted to it at this point. If you didn't have that, maybe throw an advanced vitality or accelerated deflection or shield charger or something. This one's very important. The status effects from the mods will apply to, I believe, the skin. No, this is actually doing nothing. I'm an idiot. Why did I have that in there? I am a silly dum-dum. That is, well, like I said, put advanced vitality. Again, I'm a stupid dum-dum head. Give your companions some regen. That's great. Duplex spawn. This causes the companions to clone themselves. They can't use abilities, but they will run around shooting their attacks, and if they get kills, they may get more energy orbs. Just adding on to the effective synth deconstruct. And then vacuum, which just makes your loot float towards you. This is the deconstructor. Again, if you don't have Helios Prime, you won't have deconstructor Prime. Just go with the regular versions. This will actually kill a surprising amount of things, despite its apparently weak stats. But basically, it's going to run around shooting glaives, strip armor, and prime things with viral, and also hit them with heat, which will cut down their armor and crowd control them a little bit. Shattering impact, when the impact damage on the first glaive will also take off a little bit of armor. And this just makes the glaives bounce around more. The rest of these are basically just attack speed and status mods. This is nothing terribly fancy. So I've keyed up some guys here. If you have no idea what these are, because you're a new player, don't worry about it. You also won't be running into Steel Path ones very often, but... So we pulled out the Exalted Blade. This one big boy is like currently the tankiest unit in the game. There he goes. Cool thing about tanky units is you only actually have to deal half their health, and then you can just do that to them. If you want to see our other shiny new group, it's the good old tech rots. These guys, as you can tell, are significantly less tanky. And now, remember I mentioned I have a helmet? Get your hate comments out of your system down there. Yes, you could more conventionally use Null Star. You could use Desiccate. You could use different things. The cool thing about Banish is they can't shoot you, but this is an ability. Abilities do not care which side of the rift an enemy is on. So we do this, and we'll let them. Someone in here did not get caught by that. See, these guys are just woefully unable to do anything to me. Apparently they're aware of that too. Also something, this might be a bug, but you'll notice the duplex bonds can also seem to attack through the rift, because they're apparently abilities. Yeah, you may also I've heard people say, oh, it's Limbo's ability. Limbo can't do anything to Xmas units, right? That's how that works, isn't it? So the funny thing about that is people do not do their research. And while that thing is annoying, actually, again, I'm a dumb person because that's not the way that you would probably want to test this. Here, we'll just grab one of these. No, not a jade one. There we go. Look at my health. Overguard enemies are not actually outside the rift. They get put inside the rift. Anyways. That's been true basically forever. If you're limboing, you're fighting overguarded enemies and they're on the other, all you have to do is be outside the rift. Or inside, on the opposite side from them, they still can't hurt you. I know this because I was a semi-limbo main. Anyways, if you've enjoyed the build, but yeah, Banish is my kind of my emergency survival tool. I throw whatever into the Shadow Realm, and then it can't hurt me while I beat the crap out of it with a laser sword. Minus those Xmas effects, which are highly telegraphed and easy to dodge, and not even all of them have attacks. Anyways, that's the build. We will be doing the Steel Path mission here in a second, so feel free to join us for that one. But if not, remember to drop a like and a subscribe. Drop a comment if you got any questions or things like that. We will see you in the next one. We'll eagerly await what D's got for us on the pseudo-exalted/exalted reworks. And until then, have a good one. We got a nice little crossfire thing. I like crossfire missions for these little demos because you get more than one enemy type. It's always good to know your build can handle multiple things.
Their rage is vehement, their focus impressive. Give them all warriors down.
So yeah, you can see we're just chopping through these guys. One thing you will notice is you can't finisher them if they're in the rift. Slightly annoying. Also, they shut the door on me. That wasn't very nice of them.
I'm still detecting
Silly Grenier, I'm here to kick ass and chew no. Gum. That's how it goes. I get the joke because Mir's a nerd and all, but why is he quote like nothing but 80s movies in 1999? As someone who hung out with quite a few nerds, they'd also quote some 90s movies, like you'd get some hackers and some Starship Troopers and stuff mixed in there too. So you can probably tell we are not even remotely threatened by anything here. If you follow my TikTok or shorts, you've seen what I did to the Ancients too. You also usually, well, the Exalted Blade seems to have a higher blocking speed or something. Now we've gotten into the classic problems. Energy! Every time I do these tests, it screws me with energy in a way that does not happen when I play normally. Basically ever.
Stay focused. There's a heavy unit approaching.
Anyways, we'll carry on here. I'll pop you guys back in when an Acolyte shows up. See, now he's in the rift and I can't kill him because I don't have energy. That's something to watch out for in the odd event it should happen. Once you get up to your cap on energy, you basically never run out. But it's down to the random chance of the companions making orbs. Our Acolyte is in the way. By the way, you always want to actually get into melee range, because then you hit them with the wave and the sword. You don't actually want to just do one. Which one's Torment?
Stay focused. There's a heavy unit approaching.
And there's an Acolyte done. I don't remember what Torment's specialty thing is. So yeah. Also, I forgot to show it before, but yeah. Just make sure you've got your secondary weapon there, and you're kind of quick meleeing with your Exalted Blade. And you'll be able to just immediately shoot the Xmas units to get overguard. Ancient Disruptor still exists? Thought we got rid of them. They turned into those protector things. Anyways. See, we're not taking any damage because I put them in the Shadow Realm. My companions are being particularly brain dead. You can see they're in the other room and nowhere near me. Just not helping my energy situations. Hey, I'm gonna clean up the rest of this mission because Exterminates apparently still can't spawn enough enemies the first run through, so you have to go backwards. Again, if you want to see more, remember to drop a like, subscribe, throw down a comment, all that sort of fun stuff. D hasn't released their least used Warframes or most used Warframes yet, so I haven't picked the next video. I'm considering doing Garuda. Failing any better. Oh, there's something in there that had a overguard that I failed to get. I'm considering doing Garuda next though, but hey, drop it in the comments if you've got another suggestion. I might also start just tuning up some of the builds I released last year when I started the channel. We've already technically done Caliban because of his rework, but Frost. I do have a new Frost build for 2025, so we can jump into that.
Stay focused. There's a
Till then
heavy
though,
unit approaching.
we will see you later. Hope you're having a good one, and thanks for watching.